Hi, my name is Jennifer Howard, and in today's session I am going to be redoing a video that I made a while ago, which was comparing Enneagram Type 2 with a 1-wing to Enneagram Type 2 with a 3-wing. So I'm just going to jump right into it. First off, I would say if you are an Enneagram Type 2 and you have a 1-wing, you're going to be more willing to serve people and help people in a more task-oriented way. Certainly you'll be interested in the relational aspect of that, but actually doing things for other people, washing the dishes for, your mother or whatever. I mean, come up with your own scenario. That's probably going to be more likely for a 2 that has a 1-wing. A 2 that has a 3-wing, they will probably, this is probably a better way to say it. 2s are often called the giver, sometimes the helper, and this is what I would say. If you're a 2 with a 1-wing, the helper is probably a better word for you, because helping implies that the emphasis is on doing something for you, or at the very least with you. 2s like to do things for you, though. If you're a 2 with a 3-wing, it's probably more appropriate to call you the giver, because I've noticed that 2s that have a 3-wing, they'll use their money a lot to give to people, and 2s in general will do that, but it's almost like it tends to be something that you see more frequently in a 2 that has a 3-wing, and it doesn't always look like buying gifts. Oh, hello. Do you have input? This is my cat. Little kitten. For those of you that do not know, she is an 8 on the Enneagram with a 7-wing. For those of you that also don't know, there is a pet Enneagram. If you think that animals do not have personalities, it's because you've never had an animal. This right here is my resident 8 with 7 in my home. Anyways. Yes. So. Where was I? Oh, so 2 with 3, and I was saying it doesn't necessarily have to look like buying gifts when you're a 2 with a 3-wing and you want to use your money. Sometimes 2s who have, okay, this is an example. I'm going to use people in my family. My sister is a 2 with a 3-wing, and she certainly prefers to give over helping. And I don't even really have to ask her to give. She doesn't hardly ever give me money. She'll buy me gifts every now and again. That's a pretty common way for her to show her love for me. But she will also spend her money. She's really crafty. She likes to make things, and so she will often go and spend her money to buy things to make something for me, and then she makes it and gives it to me as a gift. One of the things that she did for me that I thought was just very indicative of her 2 with 3 personality was a few years ago. I was living in an apartment, and I went on vacation, and when I came back I found that my apartment had been burglarized and completely ransacked, and a ton of my stuff was taken. I lost a lot of my jewelry that was taken. So she decided that one of the things that she wanted to do to help me, she didn't give me any money, she didn't buy me any presents, but she has a very special gift for making absolutely the most beautiful and intricate pieces of jewelry that you've ever seen. In fact, out of all I own jewelry that I've bought at stores, nice stores, like jewelry that I've paid hundreds of dollars for, and I can wear that, and then I can wear the stuff that she's made me from pieces that she's bought at different craft stores, and every single time I will get tons of people commenting on her jewelry and asking, where did you get that? I want to get one. I get so much more comments on that even than I do on my expensive pieces. So she made, anyways, all this jewelry for me, and she made sets. Like, she would make a necklace and some earrings and some bracelets, and that was her gift to me, because she knew that I had lost all my jewelry in that burglary, and she wanted me to have some new jewelry. So that was just a very 2 with 3 thing to do. So that's a difference between 2 with 1 and 2 with 3. I know that in my last video I gave this analogy, but again, I know that I was using a different webcam and it was difficult to hear, so I'm going to say it again in this video, because I think this is a fantastic way to help us understand the difference between 2 with 3 and 2 with 1. If life were a restaurant, I want you to know that the people working in the restaurant, let's pretend that those are the 2s, and the rest of us, the 1s, the 3s, the 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s, and 9s, we're the ones that we're patrons to the restaurant. Okay. If you're a 2 with a 1 wing, you'll probably find yourself as either a waiter or a waitress. The emphasis is on bringing the food, refilling the drinks. Are you happy? Can I get you anything else? There's personal involvement there. There's conversation. There's the opportunity to build relationship, but it's very topical. It's not an in-depth thing, but you're very actively helping, okay, in a task-oriented way. The 2s who have a 3 wing would be the hostesses. They would be at the front. They don't really actually do anything other than put your name on a list. But they talk to you. How are you doing? How is your day? Have a seat over here. Thank you for coming. We're so glad to see you. There's more relational interaction, and there's more opportunity there, I think, to have that relational interaction because you don't have the pressures to complete X amount of tasks for your guests in a certain amount of time frame like a waiter or a waitress would. So that's the example that I like to give. Sometimes that helps. So I always like to throw that out there. So that's my first point. Let me look at my notes here. I want to say I don't know. I want to say if you're a 2 with a 1 wing, the words that are on my notes are that 2s with a 1 wing tend to be more focused on detail, whereas 2s with a 3 wing tend to generalize. And I don't think that's true. I will say, if you are a 2 and you have a 1 wing, especially if you are a 2 who is also SJ in Myers-Briggs, for instance, ESFJ, ISFJ, ESTJ, ISTJ, then the attention to detail will probably be there, but that's really going to be more of a Myers-Briggs thing, I think, because attention to detail is more about what you see, not necessarily why you're seeing it, okay? However, I will say this. I have noticed that if a 2 has a 1 wing, it's like they're just, whenever they do something for you or they help you, it is so important to them that the quality of gift that they give you is absolutely perfect. They will just put hours into this, and they are so disappointed if it falls apart and if it didn't turn out the way that they were hoping it would turn out, versus a 2 with a 3 wing who, they're drawing on that 3 wing, so they've kind of got that whole, well, what corners could I cut here to give this person the best possible gift that I could give them? There's almost like a competitive edge there, I think. They really need to know that they gave you the best gift, that they helped you in the best way, that you favor their help over the help of other people. So there's a little bit of a competitive edge there when you're a 2 with a 3 wing. So I don't necessarily think that it's about a 2 with a 1 wing being really detailed. I do think that they are more focused on giving something that's in a perfect condition because they think that that's what you want and they think that's what will make you happy, okay? Versus a 2 with a 3 wing, they just want to give in an impressive way versus a perfect way. Do you see the difference? That, I think, is a very nuanced difference, but it's one that I've noticed. I know that I told you guys in previous videos, type 2 is one of the Enneagram types that I'm probably the most familiar with. I have just almost everybody in my entire family, on my side of the family, is Enneagram type 2. My husband's side of the family has like 0 2s. No, I take that back. I think they have 1. But she lives out of state, so that doesn't matter. But I grew up in a household that was just predominantly type 2. My extended family was predominantly type 2 on both my mom and my dad's side. It was insane to me, the number of type 2s that were just running rampant in both sides of my family as I was growing up. So I'm really, really familiar with it. I've seen it at its best, at its worst. Oh my goodness, male, female, 2-wing, I'm sorry, 3-wing, 1-wing, various Myers-Briggs types, name it, I've seen it, okay? So, one of the comparisons that I think that I would give you to just contrast 2 with 1 wanting to give a perfect gift versus 2 with 3 wanting to give an impressive gift. I see a lot of that when I compare my sister, who is a 2 with a 3-wing again, and I have a cousin that is a 2 with a 1-wing. My cousin and I grew up really, really close. We were actually probably a lot closer than my sister and I ever were. And so I kind of compare those two a lot when I'm looking for examples. My cousin, who is the 2 with a 1-wing, for example, she lives to help people. She lives to help people. She likes giving. She likes making crafty things for people. She loves to do that, but money has always been limited for her. So she has found that a way that she can give that really helps is just by doing tasks for people. She will pick you up if you need a ride and take you someplace. She would let you stay in her house if you needed a place to stay. She would make dinner for you if you needed a free meal. Those kinds of things. And she's really, really particular about those things. I know that she will sometimes have gifts or tasks or things that she wants to do for other people. She likes planning parties, so she wants to plan surprise parties for people and things like that. And when those things don't go correctly, it's not uncommon for her to call me, and she's usually feeling a little anxious because some of the details didn't work out, or she had this grand idea in her head of how perfect it was going to be, and now it's not to the quality that she thought it was going to be, and that's a source of anxiety for her. Versus my sister, who I've never in my life seen freak out because a gift or something that she wanted to do for someone was going to be less than perfect. My sister almost kind of has this opposite approach. She shows her love by giving, and she will go and buy whatever gift that she wants to buy for you. Now, my sister has always had a little bit more money, so she'll spend it on you too. She's not afraid to spend money on people when she wants to. So she'll go and buy you these really nice gifts, and if you don't like it, then it sucks to be you, kind of a thing. This is what you're getting. This was my gift to you. Don't be ungrateful, kind of a thing. She won't spend all day on it. She really won't. She wants to find something as quickly as she can because she's got other things that she needs to do as well, but she does want to make sure that she gets something for you, that kind of a thing. So, I don't know, it's just the difference that I see in my cousin, who is 2 with 1, and she is always striving to help and give perfect things, and my sister, who is 2 with 3, and she's always striving to be impressive, but without using all of her resources, you know what I mean? She's kind of got that 3-wing savvy to her, Excuse me. So, that's another difference that I would give you of 2 with 1 versus 2 with 3. I'm going to go to my notes here again. Oh, this is another thing I mentioned in my last video, and it was probably one of my favorite points that I made, so I'm going to mention it here too. When we have a 2, period. 2s are in the compliant stance, and I know that you guys probably know that. So in my other videos, when I'm talking about wings, one of the points that I often bring up is to consider the stance of your wing, because you're going to take on just some of that stance's energy. So for example, I'm a 6 and I have a 7 wing. I am compliant by nature, but I draw on aggressive energy, okay, especially when I'm stressed. When I've reached my limit, I start, kicking ass and taking names. All right, and then later, because I'm a 6, I freak out about it, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I just done? But that's just one example, okay? So when we're looking at Enneagram Type 2, for example, the wings that Enneagram Type 2 has to work with is 1, which is a compliant type, and 3, which is an aggressive type. Type 2 has no access to withdrawing energy unless it's what they're using to develop, okay? But that takes a whole lot of work. That is another video, another conversation. We're not going to get into it now. So what this means is if you're asking the question, am I a 2 with a 1 wing or am I a 2 with a 3 wing, one of the best examples that I can give is when somebody doesn't like what you give to them. They don't like what you do for them. What do you look like when you're reacting there, okay? If you have a 2 with a 1 wing, I will use my cousin for example. Again, she's a 2 with a 1 wing. When she gives to somebody or helps somebody and they complain and they say, oh, well, this really wasn't what I wanted, or whatever else it is that somebody may say, she almost, I mean, you can just see her take on kind of some of that one shame, and she's very, very compliant about it, doubly so. It's almost hard to watch. She's very quick to start offering apologies. You know, she'll say things like, you're right, I should have known better. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I just wanted you to be happy and I completely failed. And this whole kind of a thing. It's really easy if you have someone who's a 2 with a 1 wing to shame them into giving you what you want, because first of all, if you're a 2, a 3, or a 4, you're in the heart triad, and the primary emotion for people in the heart triad is shame. If you're a 1, shame is a pretty big component of your psychological makeup anyway. It's one of the pieces that you struggle with greatly. So when you have a 2 with a 1 wing or a 1 with a 2 wing, you just have the heaps of shame, just shame. And it's really evident to see when you're a 2 with a 1 wing, I think. Now, when you're a 2 with a 3 wing, my sister, for example, is, again, an excellent example. When she gives something to somebody and you don't like it, her response to that is, oh, well, too bad, so sad. I spent all that time, you know, shopping for that to give to you, and this is how you're going to act. You're really ungrateful. You're not going to get anything from me again. I'm not going to waste my time. I have other things to do. So they are not as easy to push around. If you're 2 with a 3 wing, you've got a little bit more of that independent edge to you. Again, it's a response to having the gift or the task that you're offering being rejected, which if you're a 2 is a type of stress. I did a video that talks about not Enneagram type 2, but my theory on wings and why I think a wing is actually something that we take on to help us cope with everyday stresses. So if you're a 2, one thing that looks like stress for you, one thing that is a form of stress for you, perhaps I should say, is when you offer something of yourself. You offer a gift, a resource, whatever it is, you help somebody and it's rejected, or you know, they complain about it or whatever else. If you don't get the response that you're looking for, because that's what gives you your validation and your inner sense as a 2, the way that you react to that is going to tell me what your wing is. If you're incredibly apologetic, I'm so sorry, you're right, I'll never do it again, I'll try harder, that's a 1 wing. If it's, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm just never going to spend my money on you again or waste my time with you because you're really ungrateful. I was just trying to tell you that I love you, but okay, if you want to complain about the one little thing you didn't like, that's Enneagram 2 with a 3 wing, okay? So there's another really good example. That I think actually is a pretty obvious thing. So if you're asking this question, am I 2 with 1 or 2 with 3? That's a really obvious thing that stands out almost right away, okay? So look for that. If all of the other examples that I've given you are too nuanced, that's a great one because pretty much anybody can spot that one, okay? Let me see here what's on my my little notes. My allergies are so bad today. They make my eyes so dry. Oh, it hurts to look. Oh man, it does hurt to look. Okay. Yeah, so anyways, I don't know, maybe I'll build on that. Again, that's just a little bit about how the compliance and the dependence of type 1 affects an Enneagram number that's already compliant and very dependent, which is type 2, and how the aggression of type 3 very much affects Enneagram type 2, who is compliant. Another way that I could say it is if you're a 2 and you have a 1 wing, you really, really, really care about what other people think of you. And gaining the approval of other people is of so much importance that I don't even know if there are enough words in the English language for you to describe it. The idea of having to live in a situation where someone disapproves of you is like cutting off your oxygen and you're drowning or you're suffocating and you are going to die a painful death. Okay? If you are a 2 and you have a 3 wing, again, you're a 2. So you want people to like you. You want people to love you, to want you. You want the attention and you want the affection. All of those things are necessary for you. But you're not going to bend over backwards for it because you do have some of that aggressive streak. 3s are really, really independent people, and you're drawing on that independence. And again, when you're not getting those emotional needs that you have as a 2 met, that's a form of stress. And so if you have a 3 wing, part of the response that you're going to have to that stress is, well, fine, I'm just going to go and do my own thing, and that's just how it's going to be. There's less likelihood that you're going to just start bending over crazy backwards for people just to get approval. You will draw, if you're 2 with a 3 wing, you're going to draw your line in the sand much faster than a 2 with a 1 wing will. It's difficult if you're a 2 to draw your line in the sand anyway, but I always say if there's a 2 in the world that's going to draw their line in the sand, it will be a 2 with a 3 wing, absolutely for sure, okay? That's another thing to consider. Let me see if there's anything else on my notes here that I want to cover. I guess another way to say that would be to say that if you are a 2 with a 3 wing, you can handle the negative attention. If you need to put the line in the sand and cut people off and say no and stand up for yourself, it's easier for you. There's still difficulty there, and there's still that anxiety of, if this person has gone out of my life, what am I going to do? But it's almost like you kind of go into blind rage isn't the right word for it, I don't think, but you just kind of just shove it away and you just do what you got to do. If you are a 2 with a 1 wing, you have a big problem with drawing negative attention to yourself. I mean, you can't stand it. You just fear having negative attention on you. Again, just panic almost. It's a terrifying thing, okay? That's another thing to look for. If you are a 2 with a 1 wing, your tendency will be to gravitate towards service type positions or supportive roles. If you are a 2 with a 3 wing, you'll still play supportive roles because you're a 2. That's what 2s tend to gravitate towards anyway. That's where they're comfortable. That's where they really do get their sense of joy. But if you're a 2 with a 3 wing and you had to take a position of leadership, you could do that without a lot of hesitation. I won't say that you wouldn't struggle with it, but you could absolutely do that without a lot of hesitation, okay? There's almost just this readiness that's there for 2s that have a 3 wing to step into leadership. I would say most 2s, whether they have a 1 wing or a 3 wing, they don't seem to seek out leadership positions, but if you're a 2 and you have a 3 wing and it's given to you, you really don't have to think twice about it. You just take it and you're kind of like, okay, well, I'll see what I can do and how I can make everybody happy in this role and still do what I need to do. If you're a 2 with a 1 wing, it's really uncomfortable for you. And I'm not saying you won't find 2s who have a 1 wing in roles of leadership, but I think there's some hesitancy there perhaps before they take it, or sometimes they take it without realizing what they're getting themselves into, and then they realize how much pressure there is on them to perform, and that fear of not living up to the expectations of others kicks in, and they're scared that they're going to lose your affection and that you're not going to want them anymore if they fail as a leader. So, when you're a 2, just in general, being in a supportive role is really helpful for you. That's kind of your niche because you get to be the person that's right under the leadership. You can be an advisor, you can be a helper, you could be a secretary, you could be whatever in the world that you needed to be, but it's like you've got this one person who's really, really important and they depend on you to get stuff done, just you. And even if they depended on other people, 2s really almost want to be second in command. I don't think twos would want to be president if they could help it, but they would love to be vice president. Love it. Okay? Love it. That's the place to be. You don't want to be the head honcho, but you want to be the kind of the pedestal that's holding that person up. You know what I mean? Twos with a 1 wing especially, I think, desire positions like that. Again, twos who have a 3 wing like positions like that as well. But if they needed to be in a position of leadership, I think that they would readily accept that, whereas a 2 with a 1 wing accepts those sorts of positions with some hesitancy. Okay? You tend to see an overall... I know this kind of ties into what I was talking about earlier, but you do tend to see an overall sense of confidence a bit more in a 2 with a 3 wing than a 2 with a 1 wing. If you're a 2 and you have a 3 wing, you're going to be extremely aware of what your strengths are, and you're not afraid to talk about that. You're not really as concerned with whether or not that's coming off as arrogant, because it's your strength and you know it's your strength, so you're going to sell your strength, right? You know, if you're a 2 and you have a 3 wing, you know why people need you, and you're not ashamed to tell them why they need you. If you're a 2 with a 1 wing, I think that you know why people need you, but it's not polite to tell people why they need you. You're just going to wait there until they notice that they need you, and then you'll offer whatever it is that you have to give and then some. Does that make sense? So a 2 with a 3 wing is much more likely to toot their own horn, not with the intent to be arrogant. I've never known a 2 that, I mean, we're not talking about 8s here, okay? I've never known a 2 that just liked to tell you how awesome that they were, but if the situation arose where, you know, they needed to let you know why you need them, then they're going to say, this is how I can help you and this is what I'm really good with. You could get somebody else to do it, but they're not going to do as good of a job as I will. That kind of a thing. A 2 with a 1 wing won't do that. You know, a 2 with a 1 wing will be like, you know, sure, you know, other people are good at this too, and, you know, I could help you, but if you don't want my help, that's okay. I totally understand. Don't worry about it. That kind of a thing. You know what I mean? They're a little bit more sheepish in terms of self-promotion. I will also say in the last 3 minutes that I have, if you are a 2 and you have a 3 wing, it's okay, being liked and wanted and loved is a big deal for you because you're a 2. But I would also say that you'll probably admit to the fact that being respected is also pretty high up on your list, okay? Whereas if you're a 2 with a 1 wing, you want to be loved and, you know, liked and all of that stuff, wanted, needed, yada yada. But being approved of is also fairly high on your list. Okay? Does that make sense? 2 with 1 also needs to be approved of. 2 with 3 also needs to be respected. Okay? Those are just some basic things that I wanted to cover. We're right here at the end of our video, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it. I pretty much just redid all of the same content that was in my previous video, only this time you can hear it, so that's fantastic. You guys know the drill. Questions, comments, blah, 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 below, and I'll get to them as soon as I possibly can. Thank you very much.